Hi, everyone. As Nick mentioned, I'm Kahar and I'm a user researcher at Kainos. And today I'm going to talk to you a bit about how we worked with a client to help them design a better experience for pension consumers. Due to confidentiality reasons, I can't tell you who the client is, but they are a company that builds pension software predominantly for local government pension schemes. Amongst other things, their software allows pension funds to do complex calculations and for members to see the estimation of retirement income. And initially, what we learned from historical user feedback is that there are several pain points with the client's current member-facing software, some of which prevented from members from engaging with their pensions entirely. Next slide, please, Nick. Thanks. So the client wanted Kainos to help them understand what a new member solution could look like. They wanted to provide a simple experience empowering members to take control of their pensions. More broadly, they wanted to know how could they transform the pension experience for millions of people that work for, say, local authorities, police, fire services, schools, and beyond. Next slide, please, Nick. And as you can imagine and see from this visual, the pension journey is expansive. It goes across many ages, life moments, and employment touch points. We only had 8 weeks of discovery, so we couldn't focus on all stages of the pension journey. So we had to narrow down the scope. And we referred to government research and data, which showed that peak engagement with pension tends to happen nearing retirement. And therefore, we felt it made sense to focus initial research on this group of people. Next slide, please, Nick. So the challenge was, how can we improve the pension experience for people nearing retirement, particularly those on the lower end of the engagement scale? We focused on the lower end of the engagement scale because these are the people that make up the majority in the UK. This tends to include people who are interested and becoming engaged with their pensions, but don't feel confident or empowered to take decisions and act. From a research perspective, this meant finding out about these people's lives and perspectives, understanding what they were trying to achieve and what was preventing them from achieving and meeting the goals. So we spoke to several people in retirement through in-depth interviews, and the interviews really helped us build a rich and detailed picture of this user group and relevant aspects of their lives. Next slide, please, Nick. So what did we find out? We learned heaps, but in the interest of time, I'll focus on a couple of findings. Firstly, we learned, next slide, please, Nick. The journey to retirement can be an intensely emotional experience. There's lots of reasons for people wanting to retire. This includes stuff like taking time out to care for a loved one, being concerned about ill health, or wishing to leave a stressful job to tick things off a bucket list. And the decision to retire also raises questions and concerns about a number of things, say one's identity, future lifestyle, and purpose. For example, a retired education welfare officer kind of commented and said, it felt like you're on your own most of the time. You're coming to terms with the fact you're not going to be at work or have a routine day in, day out. I was doing the paperwork and I was thinking, am I doing the right thing as I'm going to be on my own at home? And I think this is a great quote because it really highlights the gravity of retirement and the thoughts people are having as they're beginning to think about retirement. So therefore, when designing for people in retirement, we need to consider how might we employ human connection and empathy in all interactions, whether that's human or technology. So in practice, this could mean designing a supportive and empathetic tone of voice in all communications and support channels. Next slide, please, Nick. And secondly, we also found out that the journey to retirement can be incredibly stressful and full of friction. People have lots of questions that they seek answers to, such as, when is it the best time for me to retire? Can I support my family? Will I have to take on part-time work? And what kind of lifestyle will I have in retirement? And what we found was the process of finding answers and capturing all the information that affects that decision to retire is really time-consuming and arduous. And even after all the effort, people find it really tricky to gauge the financial situation and potential lifestyle in retirement. So the insight here for us was that a single pension figure alone is not enough to help people decide on when and how to retire. And also there isn't a quick and easy way for people to get a complete picture of the financial situation and expected lifestyle in retirement. Next slide, please. So in terms of the impact of the research and the findings, I believe it was instrumental in getting the client to adopt a user-centered approach of building solutions for pension consumers. So as a result of kind of sharing research and stories from end users, the client now understood their users more holistically and was willing to consider their goals and context in mind when it came to building new solutions. As a traditionally heavy engineering organization, they've never really had focus on understanding users and designing products and services based on their needs. So through the research and sharing our insights, we help the client see the importance of understanding users as people first and defining the problem space before jumping into solutions. And for the next phase of work, the client has also agreed to employ a user-centered design approach and prioritize research before going straight into build. Next slide, please. And I just wanted to share some personal reflections because it was a really interesting and intriguing research project. And I think for me, the greatest takeaway personally was how research can be a valuable conversation starter for people to engage with important topics. People told us about taking part in user research, got them more interested in the pensions. And many of them said they hadn't spoken to somebody about pensions and retirement to the same extent as they had in the research. They said they found it helpful to share the worries and expectations of retirement, and found it really cathartic too. And it really got them thinking about what decisions they need to make and actions they should take. And what I realized from this reflection and doing the research is as soon as you give people the space to talk freely, they really do want to engage early on. And it's just about letting them speak and tell their story. And on a personal level, I also learned heaps from the research and felt inspired to become more engaged with my own pensions. I even started reading up more and actually checking to make sure that my details were up to date. And on that note, I've left kind of 3 key takeaways from this project and the research. As I just mentioned, how research can be a valuable vehicle for engagement on important issues. Secondly, getting stakeholders to observe research and playing back insights quickly and regularly really helped to keep them engaged and get them more willing to embed user-centered mindset in their approach to solutions. And finally, focusing the scope of the discovery early on, if you have limited time, would really help kind of going down in rabbit holes and kind of getting more focused and detailed insights to help you kind of progress to the next stage.